And thanks to Coach K for firming up the dough. I'm ready for the journey. So pro. I know there will be highs, I know there will be lows. Road to success got so many toes, but I'm ready for the journey. Yeah, I said I'm ready for the journey. The journey. Hey, it's more than just...
My guest of honor is a woman of God that handles things with grace and precision. She allows God to guide her and flow through her in every space she occupies. She's a loving and supportive wife to her amazing husband. He's a head basketball coach, Satia Thomas, and she has the honor of loving and raising her amazing 8-year-old son, Jaden, and her 2 dynamic twins, Gianni and Kari. She's a 15-year veteran classroom teacher, and she has also served students as a department head, coordinator, and coach. But she recently stepped into a new career as a life insurance agent. She's a lover of music, a writer, and an avid traveler, and she lives by Psalms 46 verse 5, which says, "If God is within her, she shall not fall." So she understands the art of transitioning. Today, my guest of honor is Satia Thomas. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me, Katrina. I appreciate
No
you.
problem. I appreciate you too. Thank you for coming on. I feel like it's been a long time coming, but I feel like that's gonna be great.
That is. That's why it's good, because
well.
we can catch up, we can talk about whatever we need to talk about, and
it's gonna serve us well. But
Yep.
I want to tell you that this season, the theme is unstoppable. So my goal with this season is for other people to be able to trace your footsteps in the sand. So let's just start from the beginning. Give me a little bit of your background about where you're from and how everything started for you.
Okay. So I am originally from Fort Worth, Texas. Born and raised to 2 lovely parents. My mom was a homemaker, growing up, and hard worker. She was a homemaker, though. She stayed at home with us for the majority of our upbringing. And my dad was a minister. So he is a preacher. And he also worked for State Farm as an agent, as an insurance adjuster. But I think his identity rests in like him being a preacher, and so forth. So I grew up in the church. So I accepted Christ at an early age. Foundationally, he went to seminary school, so we were deep in the word, early. Grew up, went to Fort Worth schools, Dunbar. So went to Dunbar High School. Graduated long time ago. We just had our 20th.
She's a wildcat.
I am a wildcat. I be wildcat. Who be you? So went to Dunbar, cheered. Didn't do sports much, but I was always around sports because I was a cheerleader. And then my sister, she's a couple of years older than me. She went to Spelman, and so she went to Spelman, and we went down there for like the visit when she went to go to freshman orientation, and I fell in love. So, naturally I went to Spelman. Best 4 years of my life, being in Atlanta, being around nothing but Blackness, greatness. I mean, I'm a huge proponent of HBCUs. I education for first, but if you can, HBCUs near and dear to my heart. So went to Spelman, wanted to be a writer. So my passion, inside of me, I always wanted to be a writer, but I didn't really hone in on that while I was at Spelman. I was an English major, of course, but I didn't do anything to nurture that. I just kind of was navigating it. I don't know. I thought maybe I would just land on something writing wise. So I ended up, graduating, and my parents were like, "Hey, what are your plans?" I was like, "I'm staying in Atlanta. I'm be in Atlanta." They said, "Well, now we've been paying for your apartment. We're not paying for it if you don't have no job." So I packed up. Yep. I packed on up and moved back. I moved back to Texas, and then I started substituting. And that's when my teaching career started. And so I I always loved kids. I always, it seemed natural to transition to it. But so I became a teacher, and then taught, English for several years. And lo and behold, I'm living my little single life, going out, being single. And I get a message in my inbox like, hey, we're getting married. And so I'm like, I'll click on it.
Wait.
It's my now husband, Stephen, who went to high school with me. So it's always a funny story because, Stephen and I went to high school together. He's a year above me, but he was a basketball player and we never talked, not one time. I mean, when I say I knew the basketball players, but I never said hi, bye. I mean, it's the weirdest thing ever. And so when he messaged me, I was like, this is so random, but kind of intriguing because he was so confident. I'm like, because in high school,
Yeah.
he was super quiet, very reserved, kind of kept to himself. I mean, with the basketball players. So we met, while I was teaching and fell in love and got married. So we've been married for, it'll be 13 years this year. And so, yeah,
Wow.
isn't that crazy?
That's amazing. That's
It's
amazing.
it is. It's by the grace of God, honestly. Because I
Yeah.
would have never, if you had to say, okay, see who you gonna marry when you get, it wouldn't have been. If I had to choose somebody from high school, it wouldn't have been him. And but that tells me, I mean, just being real, that tells me that my plan ain't what that is. That his plan was better because
Hmm.
we ended up getting married and he had a son, Jaden. So that's my first baby. And then a few years later, we were married about 5 years and then we had our twins. And so now we just, that's where we are now. Living life. Living
Yeah.
life.
That's, first of all, that's amazing because the fact that he was very direct like that, like, you don't get that often. You can tell that it was God ordained because
It
you
was.
said you wouldn't even have chosen him.
No, because I mean, like I said, he was so quiet. I was very outgoing, extroverted. He was so quiet, so reserved. He was just kind of, just more quiet. He wasn't, he was front and center for his basketball, but not because of any, you know what I mean? Like he was just a reserved person. So, it's just really always like heartwarming to see how like it's like he took a leap of faith because he literally said, we're getting married. That was the very first words he said to me. I'm like, oh, hey. Yeah, he was like, well, you didn't say no. I was like, oh, excuse me. Yeah,
You
it was
didn't.
cute. No,
Technically,
I
you
didn't.
didn't.
It was really cute. I said, okay, this is different. So yeah. And of course he came with basketball. So now, we are a big basketball family.
Yeah. See, I
So
wanted to ask you about that as being a basketball wife, like
hmm.
being a wife of a coach. A wife of a
Uh-huh.
coach can be, interesting in its own right. So, what would you say? How would you say that you handled that situation well? Because he's been to a few schools at this point. So,
Hmm.
how have you handled being a coach's wife?
So I think foremost you have to really be aligned with what the goals are for the family. And I'll say this because I'll get into like the career transition I've made. But early on, our focus as a unit, because we're a team, was on his career. A lot of,
Hmm.
because coaching takes so much of their time. I mean, so much of their time,
Yeah.
their energy, their mental. So a lot of our focus was on that. And so, it was something that we kind of agreed upon. And it was all gravy with one Singleton with Jaden. But lo and behold, when them twins came, that's when the side eye started. Because I said, okay, no, wait,
Yeah.
what's going on? So it was definitely a transition being a coach's wife once we had kids. Once I had small children, because they spend so much time, away that you were doing it by, I mean, I have, my parents and, a support system, but, just day in, day out, it's you. And so
Yeah.
we just kind of stayed in constant communication. Like, I mean, hey, I'm feeling like this. I'm feeling overwhelmed. And just, I think having a plan, like saying, okay, like right now we all in. So what do we need to do to make our lives, be reasonable as far as just day in and day out. So I didn't get drained. So it's definitely,
Yeah.
I would say, what has kind of kept us afloat with me being a coach's wife has definitely been us, just communicating. Like, okay, hey, and I'll tell them, I'm like, you're gonna have to pick them up today. I'm tired, or I got something to do, or and he really has he's grown so much in that way, because now he can balance both. I think early on he really struggled with, do I give, this much to the boys, or do I, what I mean? It was kind of hard, so he's done a good job of evolving into being able to balance, but it's still tough. It is still tough.
Yeah.
I'm not going, the best thing you can do when you're going through a season is find people with a shared experience. Because who has kept me is other coaches' wives.
Hmm.
So like, I would literally text and be like, okay, now how you handling, X, Y, and Z, when they lose a game, or if they have a losing streak, it's a lot on them. So, how do you handle dealing with irate parents, cause, just different things that come with the job, so, other than, prayer, communication, having people that are in that experience with you for real, like, I text him in a minute, like the previous coach that he was with at South Grand Prairie. Her name is Irma Bennett.
Hmm.
She's she's been in the game for a minute, so she's very much
Hmm.
well seasoned in what she's experienced. So that's been helpful too. Is just being
Yeah.
connected to families that are similar.
Yeah, the community aspect is very important for sure. I'm
Mhm.
sure that, like you said, you have a village, you have your family and things like that. But when it comes to like the supporting cast, do you have a certain standard or like a certain character level that people have to be at to be around you?
Yeah, that's a good question. And that's funny, because I recently talked to me and my friend, we were talking about, like, basically, you hear that you resemble or you're gonna resemble the five people that you're closest to. And
Yeah.
so that has kind of been echoing in my mind, the last, month or so, like, who are you really connected to? But I would say my first standard was that they're, God fearing, it's a Christian family, because that's what we rely back on when stuff is making sense. That's, the standard. And then I would say ones that cherish marriage. And I say
Hmm.
that it sounds, crazy, but you'd be surprised how many people are in relationships and they're working as like separate units. You know what I mean? Like, I really try to be connected to people where, like, in your family, you cherish marriage, you cherish your husband, you speak positively about him, you enjoy marriage, because when you're around people that are constantly like negative, especially when you're dealing with like marriage or raising kids, or anything, it does wear on you. Because I've been around people that, like, everything is negative when it comes to their spouse, and I'm like, yeah, you have your venting moments and relatability, but you got to be with people who want to be married, you know what I'm saying, that are like-minded, that believe in family, that believe in keeping kids, you know what I'm saying. So I would say the character level is definitely ones who are, of course, Christians, but then also who cherish marriage, who cherish the family unit, who want to see, what I mean, who are positive, who are adamant about sticking together.
Yeah, that's very important because you never know how that's going to trickle into your relationship too, and
Hmm.
how that might impact your household. So I love that you have the standard first Christ, and then look, we need you to actually love being married.
Yeah,
Please.
yeah. Because nowadays, you see it on social media, just being real. You get both sides of it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Especially, you get either the super rosy, like, all, like, curated version of marriage, but then you also get like just this opposition that happens, within, even if you're just dating somebody, it's like, no, you're supposed to be a unit, you're one. So yeah, that's my goal, is to stay connected to people who like being married.
Yeah, that's great
Hmm.
because that will keep you married. That will
Yeah,
keep
it
you married
does.
and
Yep.
have you have that support system. So like when you do need that answer, you're gonna be with people that are gonna speak life into your relationship, not well leave. That's not the answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not the
Absolutely.
answer. So
Exactly. You know it. See, yeah, you know. You know. Yep.
yeah. I
Yeah,
feel like
that's
single
it.
people get that label a lot, like because a lot of people will say, "Don't be friends with single people." I'm like, "Don't be friends with the wrong single people,"
That's it.
because
That's it. That's
yeah,
it. So what would you
it
say
should
now
be.
I'm asking you. So what does that look like though? What would you say the going idea is regarding single people? You know what I mean? Like is it negativity surrounding being single or like what would you say?
Are you asking like when it comes to like from a married couple or just being single in general? What is
No,
it?
I
What is the
mean you
mindset of
said
a single?
like other single people. You know, you mentioned you said that like even being mindful of the single friends that you have. What would you
Yeah,
say is the difference for you? You know what I mean, as far as how you choose to be around your single friends. Like what are they saying that makes you think like, yeah, I'm gonna keep them closely connected or no, I need to distance myself.
yeah, it's very similar to what you said. Like, first of all, I need
Okay.
you to know Christ. I need you to know Jesus Christ for one, and I need you to actually activate His word in your life. Like, so
Mm,
if you're about that life, I need you to live it.
I know
And
that's right.
so,
Hmm.
um, having a standard for how you operate across the board, it should be the same, no matter if you're at work, at home with your friends. So when I
That's
start
good.
seeing inconsistencies, I'm like,
Mm,
mm,
that's good now.
and
Okay.
we all have moments, where it's like we weren't our best, right?
Oh,
So there's no
absolutely.
judgment. But when it becomes a consistent thing, I have to
Yeah,
evaluate our connection because I can't be in
absolutely.
connection with you like that. But also,
Hmm.
like, I like to be around people who understand that being single is not a death right. Like, it's not a death sentence.
Oh yeah.
You got to
Hmm.
enjoy this moment because you're not getting it back once you
Absolutely.
like, you got to
Absolutely. Yeah.
enjoy this moment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those woe is me people, when it comes to singleness, I can't be around them because I
Hmm.
believe and I know that there's great people out here, right? So if I'm
Absolutely.
around someone who just speaking death, there's no good men, there's no good women, I can't be around you either.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. And it's
Yeah.
so funny because like one of the truths that I learned like as I'm older now, that my mom will always say, she would always tell us, it's a season for everything. So she said
Hmm.
you constantly have to analyze when you're going through different things, what season am I in? You know what I mean? And so
Hmm.
just like, singlehood is a season. That's I mean, and who's to say where God has us, how long that's supposed to be? But there's a
Yeah.
season for everything. So I think that's really powerful because I think um every married person was single once. So it's like let me rethink about how I'm thinking about, singlehood and where I am. So yeah. I was just curious when you
Yeah.
said that, when you were saying single friends and stuff. So yeah.
I do. I feel like it's the same. We just trying to prepare ourselves for one, just for unity,
Hmm.
because this is what the
Absolutely.
single season is for. Like, we're preparing for all of that, but you
Yep.
got to love you first. So it's just like
Absolutely.
you and God, right? So I think that
Hmm.
single season is amazing because you get all that time to really like cultivate your relationship with God. And then you get to, it's like self discovery for you.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I look at it like that. And then once the person come
Absolutely.
along, you're at least a little bit, you're as whole as you can be, you know,
Hmm.
as whole
Yep.
as you can be. That's how I put it. You'll learn more,
Absolutely.
but
That's the I mean that's it. You made mention of preparation. I mean, I was strategic in my prayers, not that not I don't know if I necessarily was just like, make me a wife, make me a wife, make me a wife, but I did say, God, prepare me for the next season. And if that's being a wife, prepare me for that. I would always pray that, like, God, prepare me for the next season. You know what I mean? And I think he'll do that. So yeah, that's definitely
absolutely.
insightful.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind
The
when I'm
the one
talking to
thing,
single folks.
yeah, please let them know. Yeah. Because coming from you, it's going to hit different because you're married.
Yeah, yeah,
you know, because that's
yeah,
what they aspire to be. So coming from you, it hits different. And I
yeah.
think that that's one thing that I always admired about you. It's like even when we saw you in the stands or whenever you were around, it was almost like you never made people feel like any different. You always like just made them feel loved in that space. Or like
Oh, thank
it
you,
made you want to aspire to be married. Y'all's relationship
thank
does
you.
that for other people.
Yeah,
So I don't
yeah.
say that to everybody either. So I'll be honest with you. I do not say that to everybody.
Yeah,
Y'all,
I
the
get
way
it.
that
I
y'all
get
move
it.
as a unit, you can see it. You can see it.
Yeah,
Let y'all
I
actually work
appreciate
on
that.
that.
I attribute a lot of that to, I know it can be done because my parents have been married for 43 years. So they
Wow.
moved, now they moved as a unit. you try to do something, they be like,
Ooh.
let me talk to mama first. But it just showed me that truly it can be done. I mean, now as an adult, it wasn't all just roses and you know what I mean? Like it was tough times. They had their moments, they were flawed people, but it showed you that it can be done. So that I think that's always in the back of my mind too. Like, yeah, it's tough times come, but it's completely worth it.
Yeah, because they
Completely.
chose. They
Yeah,
chose to make it work.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Within, just your family unit, all of y'all have your individual lives and y'all mesh together, right? So when it comes to identity and redefining yourself in that space, how would you say you were able to kind of redefine your role or who you were when it comes to your family unit?
Yeah, that's now that one is probably the one that I would say has taken me the longest. But in thinking about me kind of knowing that we were kind of focused on his career, if you will, for a season, it didn't leave a lot of room for me to kind of unpack some things as, being a mother of multiples is definitely tough, feeling stuck in my career. So I got to the point where I knew I didn't want to be an administrator. That just wasn't something that ever was ignited in me. So I was in a classroom, but I began over the last few years to feel stuck. You know what I mean? And I felt like I was just kind of losing myself to not even just being like a coach's wife or the twins mom or a classroom teacher, but I just felt like, okay, what is your next or what should you honestly be doing? So I would say I probably could have been more strategic about, I don't know if I would say balancing, but I think I could have paid a little bit more attention to the things I needed to do in order to ensure I was, focusing or pouring into myself. So, for example, being mindful of just things you like to do. I mean, you'll hear it all the time, especially with moms. Like you just lose yourself. I mean, there were moments where, of course, you gain weight, your body changes, you change, you don't have the energy to do anything just, not only appearance wise, but just going out. And so it really does mess with like kind of your mental state. So I think in order to counter that, in order to ensure that like you keep yourself grounded, you have to do things that you enjoy. It's so cliche and you hear people say it, but it's true. I mean, small
Hmm.
things like, anything you can think of, just what you truly enjoy, irrespective of the kids, irrespective of him, irrespective of, your family. Like, what is it that makes you you? And like for
Yeah.
me, I love, thrifting, like shopping on that level. I'm real frugal now. I'm frugal. So we going to the thrift
That's a
store.
blessing. That's a
Absolutely. It's
blessing.
been served me well. Yes. So just like thrifting, just going to have lunch or, just, catching up with old friends and, I just abandoned that. I mean, and some of it you have to do because you're scheduled, but other parts I didn't even have any, I'll be honest, I didn't have any aspirations. I was just kind of,
Mhm.
navigating, hey, this is where I am, this is where I'm going to be career wise. And so I
Mhm.
will say I got to a point where I began to kind of, I'm not going to say resent my life, but I started to feel like I was stuck. I guess that's the way to describe it. So, I approached Stephen and I said, hey, I need to do something different. I
Mhm.
just found myself kind of being in this, rut, this cycle of just kind of going through the motions. And I said, I think it's time for a change, career wise. And, we talked about it for about 2 years. We kind of, because at first he was like, no, I don't know about that. You know what I mean? So again, we do everything as a unit. I don't make any decisions
Mhm.
irrespective and vice versa. So, once he kind of said that, I pursued getting my license, my insurance license, and transitioned to New York Life. But in that, it has afforded me the opportunity to do the things I love. Like I'm still educated, but I'm around people more. You got to look the part. So I'm able to kind of get back into making sure that my appearance is where, I like it to be, where you feel confident. It's allowing me to just be able to work with families and stuff of that nature. So to answer your question, how do you do it? You got to be strategic. So like just making sure that you are making time for yourself, like making time for the things that you love, not just going to get your nails done, because that ain't gonna do it. People say that, oh, self-care, that's important just for maintenance wise, but for you to be able to really keep your identity, you have to pursue things that make you unique. And I think what makes me unique is loving people, being in the, not in the mix, but you know what I mean, meeting people and so forth.
Yeah.
So
Well, first of all, I want to commend you for speaking up when it was happening, because you could have
yeah,
definitely been like, let me be a hermit, or let me go like, clamber down.
yeah,
So I applaud you for like speaking up and saying something,
I
because
appreciate that.
if you didn't say anything, it could have been, you know, a lot different,
Mm-hmm.
So but in having a supportive unit where y'all can trust that each other gonna hear each other. So
Mm-hmm.
that just, once again, communication and connection, community,
It does. It
um
makes a
serves
difference.
you well. Yeah.
Yep.
But
Yep.
I'm glad that you had that moment of like God pulling you into the wilderness and having to figure it out,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah, it was
it gave you
wilderness. Yeah.
it gave you the courage. Gave you the courage
Mm-hmm.
to shift. So the pain gave you a little bit of courage to shift. So
It
tell me
did. It
about
did.
the newness that's happening now. So tell me about the new position and everything, and how you're loving it now.
Ooh, well, you talking about, okay now. How long is the show? How long? Um,
However
so
long we need to make it.
right. Well, so here's the thing. It's just like anything else. The thing about being a teacher and dealing with kids, if you have a passion for kids, they love you back, if that makes sense. So you're able to,
Mhm.
it can be thankless, don't get me wrong, because we know what the climate is in the schools, but I had a great relationship with my students. So on those days where you just like over it, you got that one student to come in to kind of pull you back in and be like, okay, let me have at it. So that's the good thing. Transitioning to corporate America, because essentially that's what I'm in. I'm in a corporate environment. New York Life is a Fortune 100 company. It's huge. It's multi-billion, million-dollar company. It's all the big wigs. So we talking about, I'm sitting at tables with people who make millions monthly. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
it's a complete change. And so with that, it's done two things. The first part is it's forced me out of my comfort zone, um in the sense of I was comfortable teaching. I knew it. This, I'm having to learn a lot. I'm having to um reignite a different level of confidence, because when you're sitting at a table of, I'm just being honest, rich white men, it is different. It's different. you
Mhm.
you know you're not perceived in the same way. You're not received. Your thoughts, your opinions is not taken in the same way. So it's forced a different level of confidence. And then the second part is I'm truly starting my own business. So the way life insurance work, you have people who will work for a company like me, or they can be independent, where they have different companies that they will use to insure people. I'm working for a company, but it's still my business. So I have my own clients. I have my own way I go about things. I have my own processes. And it's tough. It's starting a business,
Yeah,
having a business, being a business owner. You know this. You know firsthand. It is tough,
it is.
because the support, you get support. I'm not taking that away from the people who have been supportive, but it doesn't look like what you thought. Because for me,
Yeah.
when we got our life insurance, I thought it was automatic, and you and I kind of briefly talked about this. Just the importance of life insurance. I thought it was like a no brainer. Like, oh, this is what it can do for me while I'm living. This is why I need it. This is how it works. This is It's not like that, especially in our community. And that's where my passion lies. That's what I want to do, is like work with the young adults, teaching them why do you need it now? Why is this the one of the best things you can do? Why is this something that people, they're starting to talk about, but it's not talked about enough? So I'm glad in that way, but it's tough getting through to people, because we think of it in a certain way. So we think of, just, I'm gonna use this for my final expenses, or I'm not gonna worry about it till I get to it. And I'm all about like planning for the future. Like if that's one thing I can tell students, I wish I would have got a policy or something when I was younger. Not just life insurance, but just preparing yourself for the future, because
Yeah.
it just affords you so much more, and it really allows you the wiggle room to live the life that you want. Not that I'm not, because God is amazing. He's blessing you irregardless of that. But it's been a struggle trying to let people know why it's so important. Um, and that's been the hardest challenge, and it presses on you. It makes you doubt yourself. I've been, just like, okay, I'm not going to do this. Most people last 6 months in the career. Um, the money is, I'm commission based somewhat. So, if I don't, if nothing is coming in, that's what it is. So it's just been a huge, huge adjustment to being a business owner. It has stretched me. It's forced me to um, get out of my comfort zone. I will say that, you know, uh, so it's been a challenge. It's getting better, and I feel called to it, and I feel blessed by it. But I'm still very much in that learning and trying to figure out, God, how do you want me to go about this? I know what they're telling me to do, because there's a way they want you to do things, but I also know that, I'm a Black woman trying to get to the community, and how should that look? And it's really, really tough. It's really challenging, but I'm grateful for it. I'm thankful. I wake up even on those down days where I'm like, my partner that's like our manager, he'll say, hey, this is what your production is looking like. They go over all of that, and I'm down, and then I wake up refreshed, ready to attack it again. So yeah, it's been challenging. It's been a challenge for sure.
That was needed though. Like I would say it like this. When you were in teaching, you had different challenges, but you got so not necessarily comfortable, but you knew what you were doing. So
Absolutely.
it made you be able to be on autopilot if you needed to be.
Absolutely. You are 110% correct. You know it. Yep.
Yeah. So now it's like, yeah, we gotta have the seatbelt on. It's like
Yes,
we gotta.
ma'am. Yeah, just I don't know what we doing today. What's it gonna be like? You are correct. That's what it
We
is.
don't
But
know
I
what it
feel
looked
like
like today.
I don't know what's gonna happen, y'all. Where we at? Like, what's happening? But I would say I think that's where God does his best work,
Yeah.
because it's one, you realize it wasn't you, it was him working through you,
Absolutely.
and showing you, like, look, I placed something in you uniquely. Allow me to nourish that, or you stick with me and have the faith that you need to continue on. Because if I'm in a comfort zone, that's not how I mean, it's the analogy of, muscles are not built. You have to put pressure on them. You know what I mean? You have
Mm-hmm.
to lift heavy in order to grow. So I think that's where I am. I have grown so much. I mean, I really have. So I say, well, God, you keep giving me challenges. You made me a coach's wife. You done gave me these twins, because that was a whole nother challenge. I said, now you got me being a business owner at 40. What is happening? This
Hey,
is,
this is a
but
perfect time.
it is, it
The
is. It's
perfect
it's
time.
been it's good. It makes you feel like, okay, for not that, I mean, I take risk a little bit. I can be, a free spirit, but this was a dive. I took a leap for real,
Yeah.
so it's been good.
You said 40, like 40 is old. This is the beginning,
It is. It is.
you
It's
know?
time to start the next half. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like I think that it's very fitting that he gave you something. If you look at your
That's
pattern,
true.
just look at your pattern. Like
That's
the things
true.
that you've had to do, like you just listed, it's like your sister exposed you to Spelman, you go to Spelman.
Mm-hmm.
You come back, you're teaching, Stephen messages you, that's a risk too. You took that
Yeah.
on.
It was a
Then
risk.
now
Yep.
coach's wife with all that comes with that. You're a mother of
Mm-hmm.
twins, well, a three.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, every challenge that you've gotten to, you've overcame. So it's
Yeah.
like just stick with it long enough, and then you're gonna see the fruits of that too. It's just a
Yeah.
different,
That's all.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're doing the same thing that you've always done. It's all love, loving people
Yeah.
and communication. So same difference, just different container.
Different journey, but this one is fun. I
Hmm.
mean, now I will say this, in being a business owner, I can see where, as it grows, because I have more flexibility. So part of, like, again, that communication is, I'm like, well, I really want to be still connected to the basketball side and being a coach's wife. I mean, this year
Mm-hmm.
I have been able to, I've always had a good relationship with Steven's athletes, like with his team, because he spends so much time on it. But this year, when I say I love them boys, like he be
Oh.
talking about, I'm like, don't talk about them, in the sense of, if he's saying, well, they need to do this, or, what's his stats doing? But, I can honestly say I love them, and it's afforded me an opportunity to still be connected to kids and to, hopefully impact them in some way, because I think they
Mm-hmm.
secretly love me too. But
They love
it's
you for
afforded
sure.
me that. Yeah, and so that's been a blessing, because I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't take this leap of starting my own business. I wouldn't
Yeah.
have had the time, because I never did. So that's been the blessing part about doing this. So I can see on the other side of it, like you said, where, the greatness comes, where, you benefit from it.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure that they appreciate you, because everybody, there's a misconception that everybody has a mother and they don't.
No, no, they
Everybody thinks
don't.
about the missing dad, but the missing
Hmm.
mom is
That's a
very
good point.
it's a big deal in our culture as well. So them just seeing y'all as a unit is enough,
Yeah,
Like, so you
yeah.
being active, that's the cherry on top. It makes it even better, you know.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Y'all, I'm very proud of y'all. Super excited for like what y'all gonna
And I
do.
just
More
and
that y'all
I'm a
gonna
I'm
do.
a I'm a pour you into it. I don't, I mean, people, everybody say I got a discerning spirit, but you've always just been so amazing. When I told my dad, I said, well, Daddy, I'm hopping on a podcast, to talk to a life coach or whatever that, I met years ago. And he was like, oh, okay, well, tell me about it. I was like, she's just amazing. I was like, she's just a supportive. I said,
Oh,
life coach fits her. I said, everything she does, mentoring, I said, it completely is her. You have always been that. And so you talk about blessings. God strategically places you people in our path, because it's been years where maybe we just check in with each other once a year, because we've known each other for so long. But
hmm
it's like it never met, left. And I appreciate you for that. I think please keep doing the work you're doing. It matters, and they need it.
Thank you. I appreciate. I received that too. It's hard to hear.
Yes.
It's hard for us to hear it though. But I do
Yes.
appreciate that. I do,
Yeah.
because I do love
Yeah.
what I do. I
You're
love
different.
helping. Yeah. Oh wow. Well, we know why. We know why though.
Yeah,
So I'm
that's
I'm
true.
gonna give it
Yeah.
to him. But I
Absolutely.
appreciate that. I really do. Um.
Absolutely.
So with you starting in this new space and having the business, I know you said there's a lot of learning that you had to do.
Hmm.
So when it comes to educating other people about like different type of policies they can get, or just like um an overview of what they can do with life insurance, what would you say to that? Like, tell them about the process.
So you mean as far as how I go about teaching it, or what I would say about the subject?
I would say what you would say about the subject, like
Yeah.
just giving them education on it.
Yeah. So I would say foremost, a lot of people, the majority of people that I meet that are responsible adults, they have life insurance through their job. But what you find out, it is completely supplemental in that it's not portable. So what that means is that most people don't plan to, die on their jobs. They plan to retire and then go live life and then, transition. So when you leave the job, whether you're moving from one job to the next, or if you just leave, like, for whatever reason, the life insurance is no longer there. Also, it's term, which means
Mhm.
that it's only for a period of time. And it's great to have term insurance. Is great. It's like renting. It's like just in case something happens. So it's great to have. It is the first step. If you don't do nothing else, get you something in place, because you never know. But the
Mhm.
reality is people outlive those term policies. So I tell people the next conversation is, if you are able to, you need to get a permanent policy, which is called a whole life policy. Um, More expensive or more costly for some families, because it is you're able to have living benefits. For example, you're gaining cash value, which means every month that you're paying your premium, you're taking a portion of that, and it's growing money is what's happening. So not only do you grow money as far as what you have access to that you can borrow, but also you're growing your death benefit. So like with my company, we pay out dividends. And so we're able to give them a percentage every year of what the company earns because we're a mutual company. So I would tell people first and foremost, don't just rely on your job for life insurance. That's number one, because it's not portable. I would say number two, start somewhere. And term policies are very affordable. So start somewhere, because the good thing about term, you can always convert that to whole life. But then ultimately, if you really want to be able to um, have some living benefits, then get a whole life policy and that cash value grows. One little known fact that I love to share, and this is where my heart lies, is getting policies for your children. Well, it's several reasons why. The first reason is they are more insurable, because the older you get, you're less likely, depending on your health issues, if you're a certain size, those types of things matter for your insurability. So I would tell people, foremost, get something for your children. Yes, we don't want to think of it in that way, but you're thinking of it for the living benefits. So it does several things. It teaches them to be responsible. It prepares them for the future, in that if something does happen and for whatever reason they forget, like, oh, I forgot to get a policy, it's already there. As long as you continue paying on it and so forth, they have something, and then it's gaining cash value. I did the calculations once. If my parents would have gotten a policy on me when I was like 5, and then maybe by the time I was married, Stephen and I were 28 when I got married, I would have had like $25,000 that I could have used for the wedding, because we had again, I'm frugal, so our wedding was real cheap. So I spent $10,000. I could have borrowed that without it and never pay. I mean, you can pay it back if you like, if you want just more, but those are things like that we don't think about. So the first thing I did, me and Steven already had policies. I got policies on all of my children. So that's the other component I would tell them, is after you've gotten yourself insured, you've gotten your policy, get something for your children. And there's a component where I can be registered, where eventually I can do like Roth, brokerage. VULs is what they're called, which is like a variable life insurance policy. Those accumulate money even faster, so those are like the secrets in the community that we really have to take advantage of. Because I told Stephen, part of the reason why we went ahead, I said, we eat out pretty often. We're spending a life insurance policy, in food every month. Why not put it towards something where we're gaining cash value? Because Lord willing, I want to live till I'm 90. So I'm still getting cash value, even though we started, in our 30s with it. So that's what I would say is, foremost, don't bank on your job. Start with term, start somewhere, get you a whole life, and then make sure that you setting your kids up for the future as well. The younger, the better.
The younger, the better. It's the same with investing.
Absolutely,
this is
exactly.
an investment. This is an investment.
It is. It's the same, very similar concept. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Look, I feel like breaking it down in the sense of just telling them the different types that they could have, or how it generates funds and how it goes out, is very helpful, because a lot of people have no idea about life insurance, because they used to sell them the fish baskets to take care of Ray Ray's funeral expenses.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't want that. We don't want you to have to do that.
We don't want that. And just being real, Stephen, both of his parents, unfortunately have passed away, and it is the worst time of your life. You know that. I know you've probably dealt with death. It's the worst time of your life. You do not want to have to think about what you need. We don't want to talk about it. We wait till it happens. But his mom had a policy that was the smoothest, and it was small, because she was on a fixed income. But that is the most responsible thing you can do, because it just made things, it's never going to be easy, but it made one less thing that had to be a pressure during that time, because we just don't do it. We won't do it. And the other part for our community, we don't like to talk about money um, in that way, right? So we
Yeah,
don't like to think about being, sacrificing and being disciplined and so forth, but it does matter. And I'm gonna be again transparent. There's one of the partners, he was talking and he was giving us a spiel, and he just kind of rattled off. He said, yeah, I have 16 policies on my family. He said each one
hmm
of my children, I think he said they each have three. Me and my wife have two each, and then I have one for my mom and dad. So this is a man that's making, on average, probably 350, 400,000 a year. And he
hmm
spends a majority of his money, his residual income, on life insurance. Why? He knows the benefit. This is what they do. These are the small things. It sounds like, oh, surely not. No, this is exactly what they do. You will not talk to too many people who have some money set aside, who have money that don't have a life insurance policy. You won't.
absolutely.
You will not.
You won't.
They all have them.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
And I know a lot of people talk about what is it called? What is it, a universal index or something like that? What is it called?
yep, universal life.
Could,
Yep. Yeah.
could you
So
talk
what
about that
that
really
is,
quick too?
yeah. So I'm not as versed on it because, again, in order for us to do universal life or a variable, it'll be called a VUL. Um, those both follow the market. So what happens is it's still a life insurance policy. So it still comes with a death benefit. It still grows. You still have cash value. Universal life gives you flexibility on how much you put in. And so that will determine how much money is growing. So it'll follow the market. So that
Okay.
index, it'll follow whatever that is at that time. A VUL is variable. It's more, if you're thinking about the stock market, it's more risky, if you will, but the gains are greater. So that's the
Okay.
difference. They're both life insurance policies. Most people are going to recommend, if you can afford them, to after you get your permanent or whole life, try to get you a VUL, because again, if we're talking about living benefits, right, how is this going to benefit me while I'm alive? I
hmm
want more money, if I or access to more money. So that's the difference. You hear a lot about those. um, and it's like anything else, you know what I'm saying? Like the difference between people saying you should just lease cars or buy them, like the difference, it's the same with universal life policies and VULs. You're going to have people who say, no, I only do VULs, or people who say only do ULs. It just depends on what your preference is. I'm not versed enough to say which is better per se, but yeah,
It sounds
so
it sounds like it's just based off of your like who it is, like based on what they're trying to do. Maybe that's what
yeah,
it
yeah,
comes down to, like you
absolutely,
said. Yeah.
absolutely.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I do believe wholeheartedly that everyone should have at least one life insurance policy, just so that you can make sure that planning for the future and your family is not in a space where they have to like deal with
Yeah.
managing that. And as Black people, we need to talk more about what we actually want when it's that time as well, because it's gonna happen at some point.
Yeah. It is.
So it's going to happen, and we all need to make sure that what our last wishes are being honored by writing it down,
Yeah.
like, and
Yeah.
making it very
Yeah. No.
plain.
Okay. So to that point, when I'm in a group, chat with my friends, and she was saying that she did, kind of like an estate planning with her dad. It's important. I mean, I went
hmm
to my mom's house the other day, and I was helping her with something, and we were I was trying to get her logged into an account. And so I said, well, Mom, what is the account? Well, again, they depend on each other for everything. She's like, well, let me call your daddy. And he put it, Katrina, they had like 4 pages of passwords that they had written down. I mean, it was the most, I said, oh, Lord, we all got to get old. But it was just fun. I was like, Mama, what is this? She was like, well, that's how me and your daddy do it. But I'm saying that to say, if something happened to them, I need to know where their passwords are, where they are. Those are discussions, like you said, planning for the future, that we don't
hmm
always do, but it's just responsible. It's just responsible. That's why I tell people planning for the future is responsible. And it's selfless. You know what I mean? Because it would be nice. What that's the worst feeling, to get to that point and you leaving your kids scrambling, trying to figure out, like you said, how we gonna take care of stuff, where it's gonna be, where they want this, what did they want, what mama would have want. Write it down, like you said. I love that you said that. That goes with planning as well.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, when it comes to you working with people with life insurance, is that a part of the process as well?
Yeah, well, we work with different estate planners. So we have certain recommended estate planners. Each agent has their own, I guess, book that they use of people that they refer and so
Mm-hmm.
forth. So even like for lawyers, if you're talking about like power of attorneys and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we do work with estate planners. We work with like lawyers for like power of attorney, all those types of things. We work a
Mm-hmm.
lot with real estate agents because a lot of times, it's young couples if they're buying a home, or just people younger buying a home. Life
Mm-hmm.
insurance goes hand in hand with that planning. So yeah, we don't do it like it's not something I do, but it's something that we can recommend for others.
Y'all hear that? That is a one-stop shop.
Yes,
Y'all can
yes, it
They
is a
can connect
one-stop
you
shop.
with who
So
you need to be
I'm
with.
telling you, we connected and we are all about, or me, I'm all about being professional. One of the things I told my partner, I said, we deserve the best level of professionalism as any other group of people. And so I'm very adamant about that. A lot of my initial clients are family and friends, but I do want to make sure that I'm being as professional as possible, as thorough, as detailed. So yeah, it's important. We try to work with the best. I do work with the
Yeah.
best. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's
Yep.
amazing. Well, I'm
Yeah.
excited for you. I can't wait to see, how this continues to grow, because at the end of the day, like, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're doing what you were called to do. So it's going to get better over time. It's going to
Thank
get
you.
better.
I
Uh,
appreciate that. I needed to hear that. Today was one of those days where you like, you know what I mean? So I knew I was coming on today. So I appreciate you saying that. And just, in any field, I don't care if you're a custodian or whatever, it's important for you to have people to just remind you along the way. And what that tells me is that you know me. So you care
mm-hmm.
about, just my journey and so forth. So I appreciate that. And I say the
No
same to
problem.
you. Oh my goodness.
Hey, coach.
Uh,
He's
see what
so
I
silly.
mean? You guess you can't get away. You can't get away.
That's all right. Look, we only
Yes.
got 2 more questions. He came in at the right time. We got 2 more questions.
Right.
But what were you saying? Because you were saying something.
Well, I was just saying I think it's I lost my train of thought because he's been along your journey. So I was just gonna say, like, it's just important to have people in your path that can just kind of help you hit that reset button. Um One of the things is funny because, like, that again, you talk about, I keep going back to this, but on those days where Steven is just kind of doubting himself, you gotta have that person, that's just saying like, no, this is not you. Like, no, you require excellence. You know, you're
Mhm.
not crazy or too ambitious for wanting them to play a certain way or expecting certain things. You know what I mean? And so I think it's awesome that you just reminded me of that. Like, hey, right now it's here, but this is where it can be. So again, I appreciate that.
Yeah, the sky is the starting point for us. So
That right. That's it.
that's the sky's the starting point. So
That's it.
um so I have 2 questions left for you. My first one is gonna
Okay.
be, if you knew then what you know now, would you change anything?
Ooh. Ooh. Okay. If I knew then what I knew now, would I change anything? Um, I think I would have. It's silly enough to, well, not silly enough to say. I think I would have banked on myself a little bit more. I think part of God utilizing you for what He's called you to is maximizing your gifts. And so
Mhm.
for me, I'm a person because I consider myself to be highly humble. I think sometimes it's cliche. I would dim my light. I would just kind of, talk about that autopilot. I would kind of fall back. I didn't want to make nobody feel like You know what I mean? So that could be even within my career. It's born to stand out. And that's for every person. That's not just so unique to
Mm-hmm.
me, but I'm saying I wish I would have banked on that a little bit earlier. Because I just kind of sat on a lot of gifts that I have. So that includes like writing, that includes, taking on leadership roles, that includes speaking up about certain things. So if I would have known then that, hey, start early, like the stuff you want to pursue it, go after it. It's something in you. You'll get through. Like I'm realizing that now, but I wish I
Mm-hmm.
would have known it then. I wish I would have. I would be a little bit further, I think, in some of career-wise, than I am now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you said writing, because I'm gonna be honest with you. I wrote this down when you said it earlier. I was like, yeah, we're gonna remind her about the writing thing, because it's never too late for that. So
No, it's not. I do it on the
it's never too
side.
late
So
for that.
I got some my passion is to do like devotionals. The market is so oversaturated. I'm like, I do research, looking up devotionals. I follow a lot, it's so oversaturated. But again, it goes back to me, remembering that God has, placed something different. And, it could be that one thing that maybe you say to a person that can really change their walk with Christ. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I do still do it on the side. I do. That I have not abandoned
Yes.
it. I just haven't fully put it out there yet.
Please keep doing that, because there may be a lot of different devotionals in the market, but your story and your journey is different from everybody else's. So
Yeah.
utilizing what your experiences to write it is way different from everybody
Yeah.
else's. And there's always a market for that.
Yeah.
Always.
I appreciate that.
So my last question for you will be, what is one life lesson you've learned throughout your journey that you believe makes you unstoppable?
Ooh. One life lesson that makes me unstoppable. I mean, it's I guess I did see the question, so I don't want you to think I was not prepared.
Oh,
But
no,
I
you're
kind of
fine.
toyed
Everybody
with
does
it.
that. Everybody
Well,
does that.
you toyed with it because if you narrow it down to one, I would say that the only way to get through and really be what God has called you to do is to continue to walk with Christ. And that's so, like, you hear that, but it is true at every step of my life. The only way I have been able to navigate any storm, so I'm talking about from, like I said, self-esteem, feeling overwhelmed, is relationship with Christ. I mean, literally, where at my lowest moments, because I've made some mistakes and done things, I could feel God's presence. We feel it, when you're in church and you're singing, when you listen to the gospel music in the car. But I'm talking about when it's like dark and you in that corner and things is not making sense. Him showing up and knowing that it's nobody but him, I would say that has got me through. I dealt with some pretty hard deaths. My nephew passed away some years ago. The absolute hardest thing I ever experienced, because of he was young. That's what it was. It's not that I hadn't experienced, but when they're young, it hits differently. And so knowing Christ in that moment really, really, really made all the difference. So I would say what has made me unstoppable, walking with Christ. Literally just walking with him, like sticking beside him through every storm. And I have done that, So yep, that's it.
And that's why you're still here.
Yep. And that's why my favorite verse is Psalms 46:5. If God is within her, she will not fall, because as long as he's there, you might, I know it's, it's falling, but you don't fall away from him. He's still there. So yeah.
Wow. Look, and there it is. We're going to close out on that one.
Yeah.
And thanks to Coach K for firming up the dough. I'm ready for the journey with the So Pro. I know that we'll be